You have 2 sons. I have a son. They all goof about like Tom.
How did you both meet?
Well,
Back in the mists of time.
it must be 14 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, we think.
I think it was when I'd started a very big project for London Fashion Week for Medium Kirchoff for a catwalk show. We had to make 6 pairs of leggings, 6 jumpers, sweaters, ganzes, but with lettering knitted over the top, a full-length dress, full-length skirt.
Yeah. And I did the witch sweater.
And you did the witch sweater. Thank goodness you came along.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
That's a nice thing to say.
Totally. I think I was really drawn to the fact that you were not put off by, you embraced the different knitting challenges.
I was up for it. I remember saying, please let me work with you. The only time I've ever had to beg for a job.
I absolutely loved meeting every single one of the contestants on the show. They're incredible and such a wide skill set. And yes, everybody has to learn something new because we are talking about so many different types of knit and crochet. Nobody can know them all. I certainly learnt so much from them. I hope they learned just a tiny bit from me. I loved having that exchange, that love of knit, of crochet, of working with our hands, with designing and sharing. And so many different traditions became represented on the show.
They all did really, really well. I said just about on a weekly basis that they were all far braver than I ever would be to put themselves through that. We felt that we were lucky to be there, to get to know these people, because we do a lot of teaching here, but we don't get to follow through with the tour groups. But to see people over that period of time and who are devoting a considerable amount of time over each of these 8 weeks to knitting and crochet meant that we could really follow through with them and see how far they had come. The thing that surprised me in a really, really good way was how keen they were to learn from everything that we said. That was a delight, really. That was a delight. It also meant that I felt we had to be really careful and really professional in the feedback that we gave them, because they were listening to every syllable.
So it's quite a funny response. Maybe it's not, because actually it's joyful. The emotion is actually joyful, but it just makes me cry. Sometimes it makes me laugh, but I know how hard some of these people, beautiful people, worked. That also just made me feel quite emotional, that they had put their heart and soul into their work, and that was amazing. I think because I'm so connected to knit, and I've had a knitted life, it's part of my identity is knitting, that it feels, when I see something beautifully knitted with care, thought and love in it, I feel that exchange. And that's the thing about hand knit, is there is that added element which you can't get through machine or anything else, it goes through you, through your needles, through your fibre, into the end result, and it's love.
The minute that we met Tom, for the first time, the first thing he said to me, he homed in on something that I was wearing, and he said, "I like that." And then we started talking knit. And he reached into his bag. He'd just flown in from Los Angeles, just arrived. He reached into his bag and he got out his special flying knit kit. And he talked us through everything that he had there. And I said, well, I thought Di brought some scissors on an aeroplane from Edinburgh. I said, I thought she was going to be arrested. That was it. We were just into knitting for as long as the meeting lasted. And it really didn't matter that he knitted or crocheted on with much chunkier yarn and with much bigger needles or a crochet hook. That didn't matter at all. That's just a detail. Because what matters is, you know, the benefit that we get from it, how much we love it, and where we can go with it. I mean, I have threatened to knit him something that's got lots and lots of stitches on. Every time he saw something, one of our pieces in the judge's den, he used to say, "How many stitches have you got on there, Sheila?" So I have threatened to knit him something very much finer one day. My sons, when they have seen me on television standing next to Tom, they said, "You were put next to him to keep him in order, Mum." And I said, no, not at all. They're a bit hung up on the fact that I was a teacher for 30 odd years.
I suppose, like Sheila, I started very small with an aunt, and that was in Yorkshire. And there was a big knitting Gansey tradition in Yorkshire, and she gave me my first Gansey book when I was 11 or 12, and I'd spend the weekend making things and making gifts for Christmas, watching Blue Peter, and learning and doing. I was a little bit different to the rest of the family because I was adopted when I was 10 days old. And I think having that love shown to me by these women, friends of Mum's who kind of adopted me literally and had me knitting with them and spending lovely time with them, was really lovely. It gave me confidence, and it was very relaxing, and it made me feel I was in a very safe place, which is, I think, what knitting does for a lot of people. From Yorkshire, I went to university in Warwick, and I knitted my way through seminars and lectures and in the pub, and raised a few eyebrows. I was quite anxious as a young person, and knitting actually calmed me down so that I could just sit and listen to a lecture and absorb it rather than being, quite anxious, socially anxious. And then people started asking for things, so I would make hats and mittens. And when I moved to Skye, and I had to have a wee job, so friends sent me orders for knitting. And eventually I started a studio in 1983. And I found the colour and landscape in Scotland just so incredible that it really influenced my colour choices, my style of knitting.
My first knitting memory is literally as a very small child. I think I was 3, sitting beside my aunt. She worked with my father, who was the general manager of a spinning mill in Hawick. So wool was very much, Di keeps on saying that wool is in my blood, and maybe it is. It came about from about the age of 3 that I would sit beside my aunt, and whatever she did, I would try to copy. I was obviously keen enough to take this home and start experimenting. I started on dolls' clothes. It's easier to knit larger garments than it is to knit very small garments, but I learned a huge amount. It's such a gift. I see it as a gift. And I see it as a gift that my aunt gave me. It's somewhere that I can just be and be happy.
We worked on Train Spotting 2, making a sweater for Ewan McGregor, who likes his knitwear.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he's a good Scottish boy.
and we had 3 days to make this sweater.
Yeah, so a back,
design it,
front, the sleeves, but then allow enough time for putting it together.
So, and nobody had his measurements. And I said, somebody's got to find his measurements for me to start the design. I need the measurements. You know, we'd sorted the yarn, sorted what style we were going to do.
Yeah.
And somebody had to track him down because he was on a motorbike with a friend in California on a road trip with his tent. Nobody was supposed to know where he was. And somebody managed to get a call to him. And he got his measurements. He went into a barber's shop and found a tape measure.
Someone with a tape measure. You never have a tape measure when you need one. That was a great project. It was so disappointing that when they came to do the filming, the weather was...
There was a heat wave in Edinburgh.
There was a heat wave in Edinburgh, and he never...
He could only face a cotton T-shirt or something.
So hey.
So it's in the props somewhere. I personally feel it's really important that young people keep up our traditions, but sometimes it's good to move them and to create new shapes, new forms, and to open up the dialogue. So with Gansey knitting, which is on the endangered list of crafts in the UK, if we can have people creating things that they initially don't even realise is a Gansey stitch, but then they learn that, oh my gosh, this is actually from an ancient tradition, but I'm using it in a modern way. That's great because it keeps that tradition alive, talked about. It's an innovation. So I was talking to Nike, they were in my studio, and I talked about the Gansey knitting, the traditional knitting, and they were absolutely in love with the idea of it. And I suggested we made running shoes in it and moved away from the woven fabric into the knitted fabric. And they absolutely loved the idea and ran with it. And I drew up the patterns using Gansey techniques. And Sheila made the first pairs, knitted seamlessly. So technically really intense, small pieces, but essential to the fly knit story. The idea of a high-end athlete going off the blocks at a high speed, their foot is put under so much pressure with the speed and the movement and the acceleration that woven fabrics can be too restrictive. So it's like running barefoot with the knit fabric. The expansion of the fabric allows the runner to run faster and quicker out of the blocks. So Luke, who was the technical whiz, looked at these shoes and the light bulb moment came on, and he totally got it, that this was the way forward. And out of that hand-knit prototype came the fly knit.
For a long time, knitting has been looked on as the very uncool thing to do. the poor relation, if you like. But some of the work that we do and that we see and that people ask us to do, big fashion houses and so on, really, you know, they understand, these designers understand how important hand knit is. For a long time, knitting has been looked on as the very uncool thing to do, the poor relation, if you like. But some of the work that we do and that we see and that people ask us to do, big fashion houses and so on, really, you know, they understand, these designers understand how important hand knit is.
When I knit, I go into a particular zone, I go into a space, and it's a meditation. And over the years, it has really helped with anxiety. It's really helped calm me down, create a safe space for me within my practice of knit. But it's also when I'm designing and I'm in that creative space. So it has a meditative space, but it also has a creative space because it allows your brain to relax, to join up the dots, to play. And all of my design work is about play and having fun, asking questions and making things that cannot be machine knitted, cannot be recreated by AI, but are actually individual and using knit to its very best.
I would love people to have the possibility that I had as a small child, but actually you can start at any age. You don't need to be 3. You can start at any age. And it's never too late. It's a great thing, and it doesn't need to be complicated. But it's such a great thing for unwinding and getting your mind into a happy place. Between much younger people, little girls learning to knit scarves for their dollies, you know, and the catwalk things that we do, all of it is what we hope for. Absolutely every stitch.
I think one thing I've noticed is that people maybe will make a small mistake and fixate on it.
Yes.
But actually nobody else sees it. Or very few people see it.
Very few people see it. You gave me you handed over a piece of colour work to me once for a very special occasion, and I said I would finish it for you, and you said, well, there is a mistake in the pattern, and I couldn't see it. You had to show me what the mistake was in the end.
That was when we were doing the work for the Princess Foundation.
It was very, very special.
That's the beauty of knit, is that it can teach you to let go of those kind of anxieties about things. I can never do neat intarsia. I love intarsia more than anything in the world, but that little technique you've got is really, really, really something else. And I look at that and I think I aspire to that.
But I could never do the creative design work. I think my brain is wired in a different way. I think together, we get there.
I want people to feel the joy that I feel with knitting. I want to share it. I want to see people on the sofas, sat around the table, everybody together, whether they're in a knit club or a family or friends, or just on your own, and feel that connection that lovely connection with the contestants, with us, with Tom, that they're part of a community, they're part of something, and they can knit along, or they can wish they could knit along, and they can then learn and join us, and that's how I want people to feel.